Hi, good morning, friends. I'm Jen Furta with Kaiser Permanente. Many of you I've known for a long time because forever, because I've been in the community for a really long time. And I do have a new home, Kaiser Permanente, and I have to tell you, I am loving every minute of it. It is an incredible company. And I will tell you, as incredible of a company that they are to work for, they're an amazing healthcare partner. So if you guys are in need of a healthcare partner for your business, I would ask that you just give Kaiser a call and we'll see if we're a good value for you and we're a good partner for you. But that, as Holly said in the video, we really are about the health of our members and our community, and that is what Kaiser Permanente stands for. So if you'd like to grab some information, we have some goodies over there. We have squishable fruit. We have dental floss because that helps you thrive, and we have a couple of water bottles. So please, and if you have any questions, I'm gonna be here all morning long, would be happy to connect with you. Without further ado, this is not going to be a giant commercial about Kaiser Permanente. This is about mindfulness, because we at Kaiser absolutely understand if we do not have healthy CEOs and business owners and people that work in our companies are not healthy. So this is about mindfulness and staying present and staying healthy. And I'm gonna pass it over to these ladies. They're gonna introduce themselves and they are going to be amazing, and we're all gonna leave here relaxed and mindful.
That is the hope, for sure. Right. So I'm Amy Conley, and this is Melanie Nienaber. We are from Kaiser Permanente in Denver. Had an awesome drive down here this morning. So we are behavioral medicine specialists. So that's a fancy term for therapists in primary care. So a lot of you know about Kaiser and how we're kind of a one-stop shop. So we are sort of the behavioral health representatives in all of our primary care clinics. Our job really is to connect the head with the heart. And we know that 60% of what comes into primary care is actually behavioral health related. And so our job is really to identify, let's just not throw medication at people. Let's figure out what we can do in terms of lifestyle changes to help you function better in your life. So we're gonna be talking about mindfulness, which is just one part of what we do every day. This is typically a 3-hour presentation, so we're giving you the elevator speech on mindfulness, and hopefully you walk away with a foundational understanding of what this is.
All right. So anyone have stress? Right? No, anyone? Okay. So as Amy had alluded to, mindfulness is really an evidence-based practice that we use for stress management. It's also one of our go-to tools that we use in our work for managing depression, anxiety. Another part of my role in Kaiser is a chronic pain therapist, so I work on an integrated team, and mindfulness is threaded through all of our work on the pain team and our work with patients, because it's becoming one of those tools that's more powerful than medication long term. But the rub of mindfulness is learning how to practice it and how to figure out how to use it in meaningful ways in our lives. So that's what we're coming to you today to talk about, is what Jen had talked about, is how do you keep yourself, your mind, and your body healthy? And mindfulness is one of those quick go-to tools. So in your handout, there's a definition of mindfulness. And the first one is mindfulness is really just knowing what's going on in your head at any given moment and not getting caught up in it, right? So how often do our thoughts get the best of us? That just kind of running diatribe that's going on in our head. And mindfulness is becoming what we would say, giving a little bit of distance or a curious observer of our thoughts, our sensations, what's going on, and not getting caught up in it. Mindfulness is also about being present, so really coming into the moment. So in a moment, Amy is gonna walk you through a mindfulness practice. But how often are you doing something and then you notice, I don't even know what I just did in the last 10 minutes because my mind has been somewhere else. I find that often if I'm driving and not being present in the moment. I think, how did I get from point A, point B? I know I got here, but I don't remember the drive. I don't remember the stoplights. And that's an example of how our minds can kind of take us away and really take over, and we're not present in the moment. So mindfulness is really the ability to drop into the moment and be present in the moment. And that doesn't mean you get your mind to stop or you get everything to stop around you. you. It's just the ability to create this space for yourself. And so mindfulness comes out of meditation. So it's not necessarily meditation. Mindfulness is just a way to be present in the moment. So meditation is wonderful. It's great. We encourage it to continue to cultivate mindfulness practice. But mindfulness is something that you can pick up and start practicing right now in the moment.
So I always say or joke that part of my job is to teach people how to breathe. A lot of times we breathe backwards. We breathe kind of shallowly into our chest. That actually increases anxiety in your brain. So we want to make sure that when we're purposefully breathing, which is what we should be practicing, that we're breathing into your diaphragm, into your belly. There's actually a nerve in your abdomen that is the center of relaxation in your brain. So when you trigger that nerve through breath, it's physiologically impossible to be anxious. And so that's why breathing is so important. And a lot of times people come in, they're like, you're just teaching me how to breathe. But you'd be amazed after, a couple of minutes a day for 6 weeks, how much different you feel in terms of your baseline level of anxiety. So we're gonna go through what is called a body scan. Has anybody ever done a body scan? Yeah. So if you Google it, there's like 3-minute body scans, there's 90-minute body scans. Some people use them to go to sleep. Don't start there. Okay. start while you're awake, because if it doesn't work, it can cause issues with sleep later, right? You get frustrated. So if you can just kind of find a comfortable place in your chair, we're just going to go through a quick body scan. All right, so feel free to close your eyes or leave them open and just kind of focus on a point in the room. Maybe letting your arms kind of fall away, relaxing, taking a deep breath into your abdomen, and just slowly bring attention to the fact that you're breathing. Not trying to control your breath in any way, but simply experiencing the air as it moves in and out of your body, and the sensations there as your breath becomes into your body. Noticing your belly deflate as the breath comes out of your body, and just how rhythmic that motion is. And then bring attention to your feet, and just become aware of any sensations that are there. And if you're registering a blank as you tune in, just experience nothing. And as you breathe in, imagine your breath moving all the way down to your feet. And when you reach your feet, begin your out breath and let it move all the way up your body and out your nose. You're breathing in from your nose and out from your feet. And then become aware of the shins and calf muscles. And not just on the surface, but right down into the bone. And noticing the brain as it wants to wander and gently just redirecting it back to where we want to focus. Not getting caught up in that distraction. And moving into the thighs. And if there's any tension, just noticing that. Breathe in and out from the thighs, and then letting your thighs dissolve and relax. And now focus your attention on your neck and throat, experiencing what it feels like when you swallow and when you breathe, and then letting it go. Letting it relax and dissolve, and just become aware of your face. Focusing on the jaw and the chin, just experiencing as they are. Again, letting the breath move in through your entire body in whatever ways feel natural for you. And again, noticing the thoughts that come into your brain and letting them flow out. And bring your awareness back to your body and just feeling the whole of it. You may want to wiggle your toes and fingers and allow this calmness and centeredness to remain with you. Take a deep breath in and return your focus to the room. What was that like for folks? Calming. What would it be like to start a meeting like that? It's amazing how uncomfortable people get when we do that. Sometimes we'll go into our physicians' meetings and say, okay, we're going to start the meeting this way. And everyone's like, right? It's amazing how it changes the dynamic of the conversation when you do this with your teams.
Well, and I was going to say, when we do it with our physicians or do it at the beginning of a provider meeting, there's that initial like, oh, or do we really have time for this? And then we get to the end of it and everyone talks about just how relaxed they felt. And I think that that's one of the biggest concerns that we hear when we talk with folks about self-care and stress management is we hear, I don't have time. I used to go to the gym, I don't have time. You're asking me to do one more thing. The beauty of mindfulness is really learning how to create this space as you go about your day. So how do you superimpose these practices on things that you're already doing? So if you're driving in the car on the way to work, there's a great time for you to practice breathing or to notice your breath or to just come into that moment. So we're not asking you to take time out of your day. We're asking you to look for ways that you can superimpose these practices. And then one of the other things that I hear with mindfulness or meditation is we hear people say, well, oh, that's great for everyone else, but I can't get my brain to slow down. The real genuine practice of mindfulness is not getting your brain to slow down. We all have monkey mind. We all have busy brains and lots going on. That's the beauty of it. The downside is how do I get unhooked? So mindfulness is just as Amy did with that body scan, that willingness to keep coming back to your breath. That is the practice, the willingness to notice, whoa, I got really far down that path of thought and I'm coming back to the breath. And that is the practice and the benefit of mindfulness. One of the other benefits that we know is it increases attention and focus. So not only are we using this in schools for helping, especially with kiddos around just focus and attention issues and showing real benefit, it helps for us in terms of becoming one-mindedness and the ability to pull ourselves back to the moment. So we know it helps with focus and attention, as well as kind of the byproduct is relaxation. So people have a tendency to feel more inner peace or groundedness, if you will, with these practices. So we are really thinking about how do you incorporate mindfulness in your everyday. So Amy had said, thinking about starting to do it at the beginning of a meeting. We present this workshop to educators at the Colorado Education Association, and we start off with that at their bargaining. So as they're getting ready to really go into some difficult conversations, we start off with a breathing practice or a body scan. So we also firmly believe that if you're practicing this and you're a leader in your circles, it's top-down effect. So if you're going into interactions with your employees or with your customers and feeling relaxed and grounded, it just spreads. So that energy also spreads to others. Oh, yes, one more. Loving kindness. So another important practice, and this becomes really powerful, especially in terms of how we relate to one another, and especially in difficult conversations, is the practice of loving kindness. Have you guys heard of loving kindness or metta meditation? So this is really the practice of extending compassion not only to yourself, but to others. And so we have given you in our resource list a number of apps. So if you're tech and you like those apps, we've gave you some of our recommended apps, but they do types of meditations known as metta. And so metta becomes really important, or loving kindness becomes really important, because it's this recognition of we often want to think that we're so separate or so different than the person that we're talking to. Or we might find that coworker or that employee that you feel like, here we go again. I know exactly how they're going to be in this meeting or in this interaction. And metta starts to change how we see those folks or those people that we interact with, and starting to develop that practice of compassion. Because that compassion then creates flexibility and maybe a different way of dealing with those folks that we find ourselves having some more difficult interactions with. The other beautiful part of it is it helps us cultivate compassion for ourselves. So how often do we find ourselves being givers? Like, I can give compassion like no other to the people around me, to folks around me, but I can't give it to myself. And we know that, again, it becomes an invaluable self-care tool to start to practice compassion or self-compassion for ourselves, especially when we're doubting ourselves or that rant is going on. So metta, again, can be a 2-minute practice, an hour-long practice, loving kindness. So again, that's on our resource list of some of the apps to check out.
My favorite question to ask people when they come through my door is, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And they usually laugh at me, and they're like, what do you mean? I don't have time to take care of myself. And that's when we talk about a self-care plan. So I encourage every single person that I talk to create a written self-care plan. And what that looks like is 1 to 2 things that you're gonna do for yourself daily, weekly, and monthly to take care of you. Now, I would get a massage every day if I could. That's probably not likely, right? So the daily stuff is gonna look a little bit different. It's gonna be noticing when I'm in the shower, why did I choose that shampoo? Why do I like that soap? Why do I like the temperature the way that I do? What's different about, what is this giving me, right? Really being purposeful and intentional in the things that I'm already doing. Coffee is one of my favorite things on the planet, okay? It's very different for me to slam it in the car on the way to work versus taking 2 minutes in my day to notice, why do I like coffee? What is it giving me? And so that's on my self-care plan. So it can be small things that you're already doing, just being more purposeful about them, or it can be larger things, like getting out and meeting a friend or whatnot. But I encourage you to continue to have that as a working document. And when your stress is ramping up, ramp up the self-care too. And I know that sounds, counterintuitive, because if we're getting busier, we don't have time. But that's when it's most important to prevent burnout. So you can Google self-care plans too, and there's tons of ideas online. But hopefully you'll be able to take a look at our resource list. We tried to be pretty comprehensive in terms of mindfulness for leaders and in the workplace and just for yourself. Couple plugs for some apps and podcasts that we think are amazing. 10% Happier, have you heard of that? Okay, Dan Harris from Good Morning America, that's his work. The podcast is awesome, has a lot of great speakers come on and talk about this body of work. And then he's also got an app. Insight Timer is another one that's amazing, just for guided breathing, guided meditations, things like that. So that could be part of your self-care plan too. Anything else as far as resources?
Kaiser actually has, whether you're a member or not, a whole library of guided imagery. So guided imagery for pain, stress management, for sleep. So if you're a real visual person, and I have a lean towards guided imagery because my mind is really busy, I really like that someone's guiding me through a visualization. But again, guided imagery is one of those evidence-based tools for chronic pain, for anxiety, for depression. So anyone can utilize it, even if you're not a Kaiser member. So if you just Google Kaiser Permanente guided imagery, you'll be able to pull up that whole library, and they're free to you to listen to. So that was a quick a version of our mindfulness. I'm curious to hear from you guys of what questions you have for us regarding what we've presented or the resources. Yes.
So you mentioned that you work with kids. What's your top go-to tool that you do in that? Because I've been to my niece's classes, and to try to get them to breathe is like, okay, and they're out.
Yeah, so I would say any type of mindful movement. So just getting them to move with their bodies and their breath. I also think breath is a fantastic one, or just guided visualization. So, they're imagining some fun place, and they're gonna say things out loud. They're gonna be in the moment. So I think really setting that expectation of they're kids, and so letting them be joyful and in the moment, but they are actually the quickest learners of mindfulness. So that would be my shtick.
And when I'm teaching kids about breath, I talk about upstairs and downstairs breathing. So a lot of times we stay upstairs, we need to make sure that we get everything downstairs, and sometimes that's a good visual for them. Also, having them lay down is helpful, because then you can really see your belly rise and fall, and it kind of differentiates that for them. Yeah.
Is there, in any of these apps or techniques, is there anything that's geared specifically towards people with, say, memory issues, Alzheimer's, and caregivers? Because one of my fears is always people getting frustrated during that process, that have trouble kind of following direction, and
That's a good question.
Better or worse, would you say?
Yeah, so I would say not specific that I've come across within those apps, specific to someone who has dementia or has Alzheimer's. But I would say, again, going back to when I'm working with a patient who has Alzheimer's or dementia, I'm just not concerned about them. I'm so concerned about the caregiver or their support system. So that's, I guess, where I would say those tools would be most specific around like breathing practice and really emphasizing that for the caregiver. Because you're correct, I think, certainly we want to be focusing on giving someone with dementia and Alzheimer's tools as well. But like you said, I don't think there's anything specific like app-wise related to someone who's struggling with dementia or Alzheimer's. But I would strongly reinforce it for the caregiver. Does that speak to your, okay.
Is this a good startup for the day and a good end of your day, or how many times would you say to do this?
Oh, man. So I'll tell you exactly. And in the middle, and I think to just be really realistic, I think absolutely to start it with the beginning of your day and the end of your day are great practices, because those are like very like clear start and end points. So yes, all throughout the day.
We
for
talk
sure.
about having mindful triggers. So, for instance, like when I pull into my garage from work, I usually take a minute to take a few deep breaths and kind of get myself ready to be a mom instead of a therapist. So that's a trigger for me, and I know that every time I pull in my garage, I'm going to do that. Walking out to your car can be a trigger. So just kind of knowing what's going to work for you. I don't know that there's really a set number of times.
Sometimes there's people, I wish I could say, time out, I gotta do this.
Exactly, yeah. This is my mindful bubble. You need to get out of it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you're my mindful trigger.
Yeah, yep.
Other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question so much as a comment. I noticed in my life that if I didn't schedule mindfulness, I run on my calendar.
Yes.
So that was a really good way for me to make sure that I'm on the trail running and getting my mindfulness in.
Yeah.
And then a resource that's super close to us is in Crestone. Because mindfulness is the English word of Zen, right?
Yep.
So there's the Zen Center, and that place is amazing.
Yes.
If you haven't been, go.
Yes. Yeah, they do some awesome silent
They have a
retreats and a whole bunch of
location
stuff.
as well, but the
Yeah.
Crestone one is really fun.
Oh, is it?
The inside scoop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, or even just to think, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have an Apple Watch, and it tells you to breathe, right? And so I can't tell you the number of times I'm like, dismiss, right? But yeah, really being purposeful about putting it in your schedule and having it like an appointment.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
I just have a comment about mindfulness. One of the things that I've switched up in my routine is I used to park at the back of the building where I worked, right? You couldn't see the mountains, so I park around the front, and I have to walk and see the views. I go into the office.
That's
so It's
awesome.
just kind of, oh man, I live in such an amazing place, and it's such a mind right. So little things like that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and noticing, we talk about noticing things in your fact-based mind versus your judgment mind. So the facts are kind of where mindfulness lives. Judgment is where we get into some more anxious thinking or negative thinking. So just noticing something different as if you're seeing it for the first time, right? So you look at the mountains, and it's sort of like looking at it through the eyes of my 2-year-old, who's like, oh my gosh, this world is amazing, right? And if we could walk through life like that, imagine how different we would feel. Yeah, perfect.
Meditation, music, and you like into space or into the way. You put them on, you're actually supposed to kind of hold the ears, pay attention which is the right and the left, because they're actually designed to feed like information from the right brain to the left, and they're both different.
Yeah, great comment.
And there are some, I know there's like vibrational therapy where they do that, where they actually put headphones in and like feed different sensations through. So yeah, I think it's, for some people really respond to that. Yeah, until you, yes, exactly. Yep, like yes.
I kind of said that I had a misperception of what mindfulness meant. I mean, to me, I literally thought it was just meditation.
You got it.
When I hear my kids talk about it, I mean, I don't know. I would say this has been really helpful for me because I really had no clear picture of what it meant.
And I think
it's
that's-
kind of a buzzword and all of this. So it was
Yes.
good. Appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm glad it helped because I think so often we're working with folks who have that same perception of like, oh, I don't have, skepticism. I don't have time for this. But then when we talk about really, it's similar, but really different in some ways.
Thank you for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So where were you 10 years ago when I needed this?
We're here now.
I know.
What I equate it to is, a lot of the feedback that I've gotten over the years as a leader is you don't actively listen, right? So I can see where this would be super helpful in creating an image of authenticity in terms of, yes, I hear what you say and I'm responding. I love the part about it not getting caught up in it.
Yeah.
Because that's so easy to do.
Absolutely. Our brains are designed to judge, right? So the minute we look at anything, we're automatically assessing and judging. Do I like it? Do I not? Do I like it? Do I not? And that's what really gets us stuck. And so it's more about just noticing things for what they are. Yeah, absolutely.
Time for one more question.
One more? Okay. Yeah.
I'm just curious, because we're all in agreement, this has been amazing and wonderful. Do you offer trainings or classes or courses, maybe outside Kaiser? Because not everybody has that. What
Yeah.
you guys offer outside that?
So we have a 3-hour workshop and then an 1.5-hour workshop. And I would say definitely touch base with Jen if your businesses are interested. Yeah. Yep. And then, please fill out evaluations. That's really helpful for us and kind of expanding our work. And thank you so much for your attention and excitement around this.
Right.